boys and girls, it's Diego with the beautiful Karina here in the Panhandle of Florida. We made it through the K-1 visa process. We made it through the NOA-1, the NOA-2, the medical exam, the K-1 visa interview at the embassy in Bogota, Colombia. We made it through the biometrics. And this video, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, is the immigration OBGYN letter requirements. Okay, so if you are a beneficiary and you're going to have a little baby, you're a sponsor, and your American citizen sponsor, and you, Miss Beneficiary, are going to have a baby, or Mrs. Beneficiary. If you are pregnant, okay, which is good, you will need to have a signed letter from your OBGYN physician stating which vaccinations you may and may not take while you're pregnant, okay? And now the required list of vaccinations and tests, I'm going to tell you right now. Come on along. Now, I'm not a doctor. I'm not an immigration attorney. I don't give you any legal advice, okay? I don't work for the State Department. I don't work for USCIS. I don't work for the CIA, the FBI. I'm a real estate agent. And Karina is a tax accountant and an entrepreneur. Here now in beautiful Florida, while we're going to get ready to get married in a few days, and then we're going to process her green card. But if you are pregnant and you are a beneficiary, Miss or Mrs., either or, you're going to need to have a letter signed by your OBGYN stating what vaccinations he's going to exclude you from, or she, okay? You must have the MMR vaccination. You got to have varicella. You got to have a tetanus shot, a flu shot during flu season. You got to have the T-spot, which is the quantum ferrum gold blood test, which is like a TB test, to make sure you don't have tuberculosis. You cannot do the skin test. You got to do the actual T-spot, okay, which means you got to draw blood. You got to have the RPR blood test, which is, I believe that's checking for STDs, and you got to have a test for chlamydia, GCNAAAT, whatever that is. I'm not a doctor. I'm not an OBGYN. I don't do that stuff. I'm a real estate guy, okay? You got to have the letter, and the letter must state how far along are you, Miss Beneficiary, in your pregnancy. Are you 2 weeks? Are you 6 months along? Are you 8 months along? How far along are you in your pregnancy? And the letter must also state the expected due date of your baby. Okay, you got that, right? So if you're pregnant, Miss Beneficiary, Mrs. Beneficiary, you got to have a letter from your OBGYN. And the letter must include if you're going to breastfeed the baby or not. Okay, is that baby going to get breastfed? You got to put it in the letter, yes or no. If any of the vaccinations or blood work listed I just mentioned have been tested already, you got to prove that, okay, to the doctor at the medical interview. When you go for your medical exam, you got to prove it. Okay, you must have a copy of the lab results. You cannot just be written in a letter like this letter you're going to write. Okay, you got to have the lab results written and signed off on by a doctor. And if you've got any tests or vaccinations that the OBGYN approves of the applicant receiving, so that your doctor is going to approve these vaccinations, yes or no, the applicant must have them completed in order to get their sealed envelope from the doctor's office. So when you go to your embassy medical interview, you got to have the medical exam, right? And you're pregnant, you got to have this letter from your OBGYN. So if you live in Colombia, if you live in Philippines, if you live in, I don't know, New Zealand, Canada, Australia, England, if you're pregnant, go to your OBGYN, have your OBGYN write a letter explaining when the baby's due, how far along you are, if you're going to breastfeed or not, and the required list of vaccinations you got to have. Only your OBGYN can say, no, you don't need these vaccinations. Now, if you already have a baby and the child is already breastfeeding, okay, you're going to need a note from your OBGYN stating all of the above as well. Okay? So that's it, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. If you're pregnant, you're going to have a baby, you got to have a letter. If you're a beneficiary living in a foreign country, you got to have a letter from your OBGYN stating how far along you are in the pregnancy, when the baby's due, if you're going to breastfeed. And you got to have those vaccinations. MMR, varicella, tetanus, flu shot if required, if it's a seasonal. The T-spot for the TB skin test, for the TB. Cannot do the skin test for TB. Got to have the T-spot. The RPR blood test, which is for STDs, and the chlamydia GCNAAT test. Those are mandatory vaccinations or tests if you're pregnant. And only your OBGYN can say no, you don't need those. Okay? You got it? We will see you in the United States of America when you get your K1 visa in your passport. And don't forget the live stream. We do a live stream Mondays, Wednesdays, and Saturdays at 6 p.m. Central Time. See you at 6 p.m. Central Time. Thanks for watching, and be patient during the process. All right? And don't be scared of the Scary's interview. It's not scary.
I'll be back.